Where were you? Why didn't you show up for my wedding rehearsal? Mom's been trying to reach you since 6, and she's really angry. Really? And where is Mom? She just went to drop my biological dad off at his motel. I noticed Brenda's eyes quickly dart away as she said this. I continued what I had been doing before my stepdaughter's arrival, which was removing my certificate of commendation from the wall of the lounge. What are you doing, Mike? Mom cleaned all those frames not 6 weeks ago. I ignored her and carried the framed certificate into the kitchen. Brenda followed me, watching as I carefully wrapped it in bubble wrap and placed it into one of the already packed boxes. She twirled the skirt of her dress for a moment, and the sight suddenly brought back memories of the many dance recitals I had attended during her childhood. Only now, she wasn't dancing for Daddy. She was rushing back to the lounge room. I was just behind her, carrying the completed box, when I noticed her mouth opening and closing, like a fish out of water. It was only now that it registered with her. All the items that were uniquely mine had disappeared from the walls and shelves. If she checked my wardrobe or tools in the garage, they'd be gone too. I was out the front door, packing the box into the back seat of my car when I sensed Brenda had followed me and was standing there, watching. She spoke in a small, trembling voice, shocked by what she was witnessing, something she had never even considered before. "You're leaving us?" she asked. "Yes, you finally noticed. I've been moving my stuff out for 4 days now, but neither you nor your mom noticed. Maybe that tells you something." "I'm sorry, Mike. I've been a little preoccupied with the wedding. You'll still come, won't you?" "No, I won't," I thought. I assumed my not attending the rehearsal tonight would make that clear. "But why, Dad?" she asked. "Oh, I'm Dad again, am I? I stopped being called that 3 weeks ago, didn't I?" Brenda shivered. Wrapping her arms around herself, and old instincts kicked in. "Look, come back inside. It's cold out here. I'll just ring Mom first." "You can try, but I suspect her phone will be off," I replied, walking back inside, heading for the lounge and sitting on the couch. I heard Brenda on her phone, obviously leaving a voicemail for her mom to call her urgently. Then she flopped into one of the overstuffed armchairs, which seemed to swallow her tiny frame. I waited for her to gather her thoughts and start the conversation, but from the look on her face, I could tell she was struggling to know where to begin. Finally, she asked, "Why aren't you coming to my wedding?" "Surely, you must have a clue," I responded. "No, none," she replied, and I could see from the amused look on her face that the extreme self-centeredness that often takes over brides had totally blinded her to the reality of the situation. It saddened me. I hadn't thought she was capable of such self-absorption. I gave myself a mental shake. I was in a hurry to move on and didn't have time for this, so I took control of the conversation. "Brenda, I've loved you since I met you. When you were a chubby little 2-year-old with perpetually grubby fingers. I still love you, and depending on how things go from here, I may well love you forever." I paused, trying to decide the best way to continue, then decided to simply follow the format I had used in the letter I tucked into my pocket, the one I intended to leave for Brenda and her mother. "When I met your mom, she had just been dumped by your biological father. We've told you the story enough times. He was a drunk, and after your mom caught him with another woman for the second time, she threatened to leave him unless he promised to change. Instead, he up and left you both. He abandoned you." I paused, waiting for Brenda to add anything, but she simply stared at me. "Your mom lost the house shortly after that because she couldn't make the rent. We met, fell in love, got married, and moved into this house with my 2 sons, Timothy and Alistair. Our old place just wasn't big enough. Anyway, I digress. I loved your mom, and I loved you. I loved you as if you were my own, the same as I did my biological children. I never hesitated to take on the responsibility of raising you. I thought I did a pretty good job until a month ago." Brenda must have noticed the tremor in my voice during that last sentence because it seemed to bring her back to reality. "You were Dad," she said quietly. "You were the best father a girl could have. Many of my friends were jealous of me. They couldn't believe it when I told them you were only my stepfather." She paused, her hand going to her mouth, clearly surprised by her own words. In that instant, she realized what had crept up on me over the past month. I continued with my script. "I like the guy you chose as a life partner, and I was the proudest man in the world when you asked me to walk you down the aisle." I paused again, letting the weight of where this conversation was going sink in. I could see when it hit her. She turned her face away. "Yes, Brenda, you never did uninvite me to walk you down that aisle, did you? Your biological dad came back into the picture, and now I'm out and he's in both your and your mom's thoughts and conversations. I'm yesterday's hero." Did you know she's been so inattentive that she didn't even realize I never rented a suit for tomorrow, like she asked me to? I watched as Brenda struggled to figure out which of the issues I'd raised she should address first. I saw the horror on her face as she realized she had forgotten to ask the only father she'd known until now to give her away on her biggest day. I was certain an apology for that would follow, but instead, she confirmed her shallowness by attempting to justify everything. Mike, you've met my biological dad. He's larger than life. You must see that. He only came back into my life last month after he heard I was getting married, and it's just been so wonderful. With that flashy car of his and the way he's been spoiling me, buying me whatever I look at twice. He's just, well, what can I say? We both, well, Mom too, I suppose, just assumed he'd be the one walking me down the aisle. I'm sorry I forgot I had already asked you. It's just that everything's been like a whirlwind since he came back. He just swept me off my feet. Did he? I asked. Yes, that's exactly what he did. You must admit, he just oozes charisma. I was saying to Mom just today. She stopped abruptly, realizing who she was speaking to and what she was about to say. Her face, usually as shallow as a pond, where even the slightest breeze causes ripples, now showed the effects of deeper emotions. A cascade of realizations passed across her face as she began to understand just how much she had ignored me over the past month. I watched her process it. I think I even saw the exact moment she realized her mother had been just as guilty. For the past month, all I'd heard in my own house was, William did this or William said that. I tried to express my anger, but nothing had registered. They were both completely under William's spell. Yes, I saw his charisma too, I replied. I can see why he's such a good salesman. What I didn't do, unlike you and your mom, was fall for any of it. You were both blind to it. I pointed out his broken promises 3 times, and the final straw came 4 days ago when I found out I wasn't going to be walking you down the aisle. I only discovered that when I overheard you two talking about where everyone would sit in the church. My name wasn't even mentioned. Rather than showing up and hoping there was a seat for me, I started packing. I figured I'd begin letting you down gently, so the truth wouldn't come as such a shock later. She looked at me, her face shifting with confusion and guilt. You realize he's still the same lying, cheating jerk who abandoned you and your mom 20 years ago, don't you? He ran out on you then, and as soon as he gets what he wants this time, he'll abandon you again. Oh, don't be so bitter, Dad. I mean, Mike, she stammered. I'm sorry I forgot to tell you that my biological dad was walking me down the aisle. It's my fault, not his. Don't take it out on him or call him all those nasty names. What evidence do you have that he's still a philanderer? Brenda protested. I rehearsed my response in my head one more time, knowing the answer would be hard to hear. My 20-year marriage was already over, but had I also lost a daughter? I took a deep breath. Well, in for a penny, in for a pound, as they used to say. Where's your mom? I asked. I didn't have to wait long for her reaction. Brenda's eyes flicked away from me, then back and forth, as she seemed to ask herself how deep my question was. She knew, without a doubt, what I was implying. All that was left was the delivery. I just want to make sure we don't end our 20-year relationship with a bunch of lies. And so we can preserve some memories of mutual respect, I continued. I'll tell you something. I found the condoms in your mom's purse this morning. They were clearly bought with tonight in mind. I had a vasectomy before I met her, so they weren't for me, obviously. And I know you're on the pill, so they weren't for you. I'm glad to say the packet wasn't opened, so she probably hasn't slept with him yet. But buying them 24 hours in advance does indicate intent, don't you think? I could see by her face that this news wasn't surprising. So, I can only conclude that you're complicit in your mother betraying me and our wedding vows by sleeping with that slimy jerk. Did you think it was romantic? That like a fairy tale, your mom and dad were getting back together, and you could play happy families with a Porsche in the driveway instead of the Nissan I bought you? Brenda opened her mouth, but I raised my hand to stop her. Don't bother. Forget I asked. The answer doesn't matter. The fact that you knew and did nothing to let me know, that ends our relationship right here, right now. I stood up, stepped toward her, pulled her to her feet, and hugged her tightly, holding back the flood of emotions that I hadn't yet released that day or throughout the past month. I whispered my final words to her. I loved you. With that, I walked out of her life. As I glanced back from the door, I saw the look of devastation on her face. Tears streaked down her cheeks, her body trembling as she gasped for air. She desperately fumbled for her phone, likely hoping her mother had turned hers back on, wishing that somehow her mom hadn't yet crossed the line, thinking that maybe her mom could convince me to forgive her. Brenda didn't want to lose her other dad, the one who had pleaded with her mother over the last month to stop falling out of love with him, all while she had fallen for a smooth-talking salesman with a troubled past. I shrugged off her actions. Whether my wife had physically crossed the line or not, the evidence I had found earlier that morning, by pure accident, was enough for me. I had originally planned to move out temporarily to show my displeasure over the events of the past month. But that morning's discovery had made me realize how much worse things were, and it forced me to accept that the separation would be permanent. My conscience was clear as I got into my car and drove away. The rest of the story includes both facts and hearsay. Some parts one know for sure, others I can only guess. That evening, I spent some time trying to track down the motel where the jerk was staying. My motivation? I wanted to witness my wife's betrayal firsthand, to harden my heart for what I knew I had to do. My efforts were in vain, so I switched to Plan B. After leaving Brenda, I parked down the street from my home of 20 years and turned off my lights. Less than a minute later, my former daughter sped past in her car, so fast that a herd of elephants could have followed her without being noticed. She drove straight to a specific motel and rushed into a particular room. I wasn't far behind, armed with my trusty old SLR camera and its zoom lens. I heard Brenda's shouts, but it was her mother who opened the door. Mentally, I was prepared for what I thought I would see. However, what struck me wasn't the sight of Melinda in a hastily thrown-on motel robe with messed-up hair, or her ex-husband standing behind her in boxers. No, what hit me was the panic on Melinda's face as she spoke. I had spent 20 years protecting her from emotions like that. It was second nature to me. I threw my camera onto the passenger seat, turned off my phone, and drove off into the night. After Brenda was admitted into the room and the door closed, I only learned about what happened next from various sources. The wedding still took place the next day, but it was delayed until 6 p.m., not the scheduled 10 a.m. First, they had to track down the mother of the bride. She had spent the night searching for me and had finally fallen asleep from exhaustion. Then, more time was wasted trying to locate the bride's biological father, but he had disappeared. As I had told Brenda, as soon as he got what he wanted, he was gone. I did wonder about his motives. My research on him revealed that he and his second wife never had children, so maybe he wanted to experience walking his daughter down the aisle. Some people just like to collect life's experiences. My guess was that he saw Melinda as an attractive woman and wanted to relive old memories, or maybe it was just an ego trip. Being a self-centered person, he probably turned on the charm and pursued her until she gave in. Just as I had warned her, when the going got tough, he was gone. It was probably the most expensive sex of his life, and before he even had the chance to get home, several photos had already made their way to his wife's inbox. She dumped him, enforcing her prenup with ruthless precision. Afterward, she took over her father's company, no longer needing him by her side. Rumor had it that he was found badly beaten, his testicles ruptured along with several broken bones, in an alley a week later. It was also said that his father-in-law had always taken care of his daughter and never liked the guy. Regardless, by the time the bridal party wrapped up, he was long gone. They had missed their window at the church, but the vicar kindly rescheduled for 6 p.m. I never knew exactly when Melinda discovered that the dress she had planned to wear had been completely undone, the stitching unraveling just as our marriage had under her hands. I chose to ignore all attempts at contact from both Melinda and Brenda as I continued the painful process of falling out of love with them. They bombarded my voicemail with pleas for me to come back, but that bridge had been burned beyond repair. As expected, Melinda left a long message claiming that after dropping William off at the motel, she had gone in, and all they did was talk. The protections in her purse were supposedly meant as a joke for the reception, but the two photos I received via email left no room for doubt. The first was of her standing in the doorway of the motel, without her clothes. The second was a zoomed-in shot of the same photo, revealing what was almost certainly evidence of her infidelity. I simply replied, "No thanks," and asked her, for the sake of preserving what little good memories remained, not to contact me again. She respected that request for the most part, and now just wishes me well from time to time. Family gossip occasionally tells me that she's struggling to move on and hasn't dated anyone yet. I made a minimal offer in the divorce, and she accepted it without protest. As for me, I stayed with my younger son for a while, hiding my car in his garage. Both he and my eldest refused to take calls from their stepmother. They could see how deeply hurt I was. Brenda's new husband eventually tracked me down, and I agreed to meet with him because I liked him. He convinced me that Brenda had tried to talk her mother out of her plan, but William's influence was too strong. We still catch up occasionally, though the relationship between mother and daughter remains strained. Whether because Brenda blames Melinda for losing both her fathers or because her new husband is reluctant to let his mother-in-law into their home, I'm not sure. I'll probably forgive her one day, though my sons have already done so. Her new husband is begging me to forgive her too. If the hurt wasn't still fresh, I might have been devastated by the story of Brenda walking down the aisle alone while her mother, seated and looking haggard, watched with tear-streaked makeup. The groom couldn't even remember if there were 1 or 2 empty seats next to Melinda in the front row. My interest in the situation was purely academic. Between the scheduled and actual wedding, Brenda's new husband had spent a lot of time questioning Brenda about her mother's actions and thoughts regarding her mistake. Eventually, he decided that having a bride who had witnessed the consequences of infidelity firsthand might be useful, and he poured all his energy into making sure the delayed ceremony went ahead with as many guests as possible. However, word got out, and Melinda only lasted about half an hour at the reception, enduring accusing stares from both sides that pierced her soul. Today, I still wonder if she was more sorry for losing me or for ruining her daughter's big day. As for me, I spent several months moping around, going through the grieving process while fearing that I would never trust a woman again. Then, ironically, I met Molly. She was the widowed mother of Alistair's friend, and I met her at a bar, just 12 months after my split. The connection between Molly and I was immediate, and thoughts of trust quickly faded into the past. I had once been one of those people who dismissed the idea of soulmates, until I met mine. I reflected on any lingering feelings from my past, and there were nearly none. The emotional journey that began with Melinda had come to its end. What the hell, I thought. Seize the woman. Within 4 weeks, I had moved into Molly's place, knowing without a doubt that this was the woman I'd grow old with. Thankfully, her children welcomed me into their family with open arms. Just today, her daughter asked me to walk her down the aisle, and even that couldn't lessen the wide grin that often aches from pure happiness. I shared the images on my social media, and 2 days later, I came across a brief comment from Melinda. They are lucky, if only. I have ignored the comment and I am in a hurry to respond. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.